Salufalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suiswiki. Coming up, Samoa's Prime Minister calls for a snap election. Also,
we will continue to make reasoned and persuasive arguments and let our track record speak for us.
Pacific People's Minister stands by the budget, and
they've had, I think, 4 so far of community cleanup.
Cook Islands declare dengue fever outbreak. Samoa's parliament has been dissolved after Prime Minister Fiame Naomi Mataafa's government failed to pass its first budget reading. Members of parliament from both the opposition Human Rights Protection Party and Fiame's former Fast Party united to defeat the budget, resulting in a final vote tally of 34 against, 16 in favour and 2 abstentions. Fiame announced her intention to pursue a dissolution of parliament and called for an early election if the budget failed to pass, which it did. And joining me is our Samoa politics reporter, Grace Viva-Ai.
Talofalava Grace, what was the outcome of today's budget vote in Parliament?
Talofalava Susana Malole Soifua. Yes. So it has been 2 months since Samoa's Parliament last met back in March. But the politicking began way back in January. Over time, Laoli faced or is currently facing charges laid against him for defamation, and the Speaker of the House, of course, Papali'i, winning a court ruling against him from the last sitting, which saw him cast a vote for the 2/3 bill. And fast forward to today, Susana, the government's budget failed to pass its first reading in Parliament today, which has opted Fiame to, result in this. Fiame said she came prepared for both scenarios, whether it would pass or not, and majority voted against it.
What constitutional process follows the failure of a budget reading in Samoa?
So the Prime Minister, Fiame Naomi Mataafa, indicated that she would choose to dissolve Parliament and initiate, elections if the budget did not succeed. It is also crucial to recognise that, Fiame has been clear about this position since Parliament convened in January. Ultimately, this decision comes after she, overcame 2 votes of no confidence against her, where no majority was attained. Today, however, a majority vote was reached, and she had no choice but to dissolve Parliament.
So who voted against the budget, and what does that say about the current political alliances?
So the budget was voted down by the opposition party, Tuila Epa, and also several MPs from the breakaway faction of the Fast Party led by Laoli, with the final vote coming in 34 for against and 16 in support and 2 abstentions.
And what are the next steps now that Prime Minister Fiame has confirmed a snap election?
So following the failed vote, Fiame has conceded and indicated that the country will head to the polls. The next steps involve the formal dissolution of Parliament and setting a date for the general election, which will be announced in due course. So everyone on the ground is waiting for that formal correspondence from the head of state himself to confirm, Fiame's decision whether or not Parliament will be dissolved.
While a number of Pasifika people are disappointed over the 2025 New Zealand budget, the Pacific People's Minister says the budget is focused on growth. Funding for the Ministry for Pacific Peoples has decreased by nearly $36 million over the next 4 years, equating to $9 million annually. I caught up with the Minister for Pacific Peoples, Dr. Shane Reti, to get his take on the budget and what it means for the Pasifika community. Kia ora, Minister Reti. First of all, what reassurances can you give to the public that MPP will continue to deliver its core services when funding has decreased, more so than the last year?
Kia ora koutou. Thank you. Look, I have complete confidence that MPP will be able to continue to deliver its core services. We need to understand that any reductions that have happened in Budget 25 are spread over 4 years. Furthermore, to accommodate that, MPP has become more efficient and more effective. I'll give you an example of that. The Toloa scholarships used to be completely managed, that is, that alignment between applicants and the mission for the Toloa Fund used to be managed by MPP. That is now outsourced to a specialist agency who more effective and more efficiently is able to help us find the 300 people roughly that we're looking to support each year through the Toloa STEM scholarships. So that's an example of MPP becoming more effective, more efficient, and better using the funding that it does have.
That's great that their scholarship has been getting some positive outcomes, but Pacifica unemployment is now more than double of the national rate. If initiatives such as Tupu Aotearoa, which was meant to target unemployment, is being cut by $5.5 million, what are the alternatives?
So the alternatives are that tupu will be amalgamated with other like programs, and again more efficiencies derived from the program. So it's not that eyes have been taken off that at all. We absolutely have endeavours to get Pacifica people into employment. And in fact, if we look at some of the budget statements, that extra 240,000 projected jobs and wages higher than inflation, my expectation is that Pacifica people will be a part of those 240,000 extra jobs created.
Just on another initiative, the Dawn Raids Reconciliation Program, why is that being stopped in 2 years' time?
Because the funding hadn't been utilised, and the objectives will be reached substantively in 2027, 2028. So the program will continue to fund through, complete its objectives, and that will then return funding that hasn't been utilised.
Just going to change tack here, Minister. So David Seymour is set to become Deputy Prime Minister. He's made unflattering comments about MPP. Are you willing to push back if he criticises MPP again? I mean, you said yourself, Minister, that MPP is a ministry that boxes above its weight.
I absolutely stand by those statements, and we will continue to make reasoned and persuasive arguments and let our track record speak for us for the Ministry for Pacific Peoples. And certainly Minister Seymour is aware of that, and he also just wants outcomes that truly make a difference, that demonstrate the impact that MPP can have, and that is the sort of discussion that we already do have with Minister Seymour.
Hey, Minister, just looking ahead, what do you want the Ministry for Pacific Peoples to achieve in the next 6 months?
So there are a number of things the Ministry for Pacific People has in its strategic intent. The first is economic gain. We need to lift the economic profile and the economic contribution of Pacifica people, and we do that through a range of initiatives. We're also looking to continue to improve the number of houses that are built specifically with a Pacifica view and Pacifica needs in mind. It's another objective. In health, we're wanting to support Pacifica both through the Pacifica Healthy Homes Initiative, but also applying expertise to what's called ambulatory sensitive hospitalisation, so what's ASH rates, where Pacifica are higher than almost any other part of the population. That is people who turn up at ED with a condition that could otherwise be managed in primary care. So we'll turn our attention there. Another objective this year is in the education space, continuing to pivot Pacifica students towards these STEM subjects, both through the Toloa scholarships at secondary and tertiary. But also there's an increasing number of Pacifica students in tertiary education, both vocational and certainly university this year. So with my other hat on, the Minister for Universities, 398 million into that tertiary portfolio, this budget, and that will support that increase in Pacifica students attending university. That's a good thing to have more students, Pacifica students at university. And then, of course, the other budget announcement around increased funding for Pacifica wardens. So in the law and order space, and that'll be managed by the Ministry for Pacific Peoples also.
What do you have to say to people who are still reluctant or are still doubtful about what this budget can deliver for Pacific peoples?
I think what I'd say to them is look at the plan for growth. It is an economic growth agenda. As inflation comes down, cost of living improves. Pacifica people benefit from that. As inflation comes down, interest rates come down, mortgage rates come down. Therefore, it's an easier pathway into housing. That's got to benefit Pacifica people. And the extra 240,000 jobs, Pacifica people will participate in that. So I would anticipate that Pacifica see themselves in this budget. It is an economic growth agenda, and Pacifica people will benefit from economic growth.
Big cleanup campaigns are underway in Rarotonga to try stamp out mosquito breeding grounds. The Cook Islands declared a dengue fever outbreak last week. One accommodation provider says she's heard from one concerned tourist, but simple steps can be taken to avoid the mosquito-borne disease. Caleb Fotheringham reports.
Yuri Beach Club hotel owner Liana Scott says Rarotonga is looking very tidy at the moment.
Government's been a little bit more proactive, so they've had, I think, 4 so far of community cleanups around the island.
The Cook Islands declared a dengue fever outbreak on Thursday local time or Friday in New Zealand. Acting Secretary of Health Dr. Tereki Whairika says the last outbreak was in 2021.
One of our goals is to stop it here on Rarotonga and stop it from spreading to our smaller islands where the resources are not as well resourced as in Rarotonga.
Outbreaks have also been declared in Samoa, Fiji and Tonga. An outbreak is called in the Cook Islands when 5 cases of dengue is reported within a 15-day period. There's been 7 confirmed cases this month. 3 are active, which are all from the same household. Dr. Whairika says the Ministry of Health alongside the Prime Minister signed off on Operation Namu, aimed at reducing the spread of the disease. It meant on Friday non-essential public servants were allowed to take part in a mass clean-up on Rarotonga instead of doing their normal job.
We had a good turnout where everyone pitched in to help out with the cleanup, and also we've identified places that need further support.
Infectious disease expert Mark Thomas at Auckland University says dengue fever outbreaks are often seasonal when there's a lot of rain.
If there's plenty of small pools of water around, the amount that would settle in an opened coconut shell or in a tyre that's lying on the ground or some small pool somewhere, then the mosquitoes increase their rate of breeding. There are more people getting bitten by mosquitoes and more transmission of dengue from person to person by the mosquitoes.
Liana Scott says from a hotelier perspective, the cleanup is good to see.
That community spirit really comes alive whenever there's something that affects people, and that's nice to see. But of course, dengue, if you've had it before, it's not the nicest.
Ms. Scott says one tourist has postponed their trip, which was mainly due to underlying health issues. She says most accommodation providers are lenient with their cancellation policies at the moment.
It's not really a time to be strict in upholding the cancellation policy if people have a genuine reason for cancelling, and most are not cancelling, they're moving the date forward.
For most people though, Ms. Scott says they can manage the risk with mosquito repellent and using insect screens.
It's not rocket science. Sometimes it's just making sure if you are going on a cross-island trek that you have your legs and arms covered and those sorts of things.
The Cook Islands is also running vector control programs and spraying in areas with confirmed cases. But Mr. Thomas says he is not aware of studies suggesting spraying is effective at reducing the number of dengue fever cases.
Sometimes they come with environmental adverse effects, don't they, of killing all sorts of other insects and making the environment, a less healthy environment by killing off lots of other insects that wouldn't be transmitting disease. So, I think that's a disadvantage.
Mr. Thomas says the epidemic goes away as people build immunity from the dengue infection and mosquito breeding grounds change as the weather becomes drier.
Papua New Guinea state broadcaster NBC wants to see the return of shortwave radio to achieve the government's goal of 100% broadcast coverage by 2030. NBC had previously had a shortwave signal, but due to poor maintenance and other factors, the system failed. The NBC managing director, Korano, spoke with Don Wiseman about the merits of a shortwave comeback.
We had shortwave at NBC about 20 or so years ago, and it reached almost the length and breadth of the country. So fast forward we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary. Our network has, there's a lot more room for the improvement at the moment. So that's why the thinking to revisit shortwave again after all this time.
It's a pretty cheap medium, as we here at RNZ Pacific know, but not too many people are involved with shortwave anymore. In terms of the anniversary in September, you're not going to have things up and running by then, are you?
It's still early days. We haven't fully committed, but we actively pursuing it to see the viability of it. And like you said, also we've visited one or two manufacturers that are still doing it. So it's not clutching at a thin air. We've seen some that are still being manufactured, and also issues surrounding receivers. So it's still hard thinking behind it. We still have to do our homework as well. So. Yeah, still early days, and we've got minister who's asked us to explore this and then give him the pros and cons of it.
Who would you get backing from? You'd need backing from international donors, wouldn't you?
No, like I said, we'll put a business case into it and then see where we go from there, and including where the funding comes from, and from government, or we talk to our development partners as well, but there's a lot of thinking and our work still involved in before we get there. But we've been asked to fast-track the advice that we can give to government.
How important do you think it is for everyone in the country to be able to hear the national broadcaster?
It's important not only being the national broadcaster, but the service it provides to our people. We've got FM, which is good quality. Sound, but the question is, how many does it reach? So it's pretty critical in terms of broadcasting services to our people, and 50 years on, where are we? So it's that kind of consideration. And I think the bigger contention is reintroduce shortwave transmission, but how does it compare, or how can we enhance it to the improved technology that we have nowadays as well? So that's where we are right now.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.